Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on a Sunday afternoon. My name is Frank. I'm the host of the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast, recording live for our next episode here. We're going to be reviewing two movies again today, Sound of Metal and Nobody. Before I get into that, if you hear something in the background, of course, when I decide to jump on to record, my neighbor decides they're going to blow out their driveway from leaves. So if you hear a little noise in the background, it shouldn't be that bad. It's actually winding down, but I wanted to get on before the day went past me. So again, forgive the noise if you hear it. So again, my name is Frank. I'm the host of the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. This is a podcast that revolves around three subjects for the most part: movies, sports, and politics. And if you've listened lately, obviously the politics has not been featured on this podcast very often. And as I've said the last couple of episodes, I'm not sure when that's going to come back. I have opinions on it, but again, I haven't found a topic that I'm ready to discuss in politics right now because of the obvious toxicity of it. So I'm stayed away from it. This has basically become a movie podcast, which I don't have a problem with, and some sports sprinkled in. So again, today is going to be another movie episode. So if you are a regular listener to the podcast, I want to thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I appreciate every download. Like I said, I'm a one-man show here. So anyone that takes the time to listen to it, whether you're trying it once or you're a regular listener, I want to thank you. If this is your first time listening, I hope you enjoy what you're listening to and you come back and you continue to listen. Again, like I said, this is going to be a movie and sports podcast, mostly movies for right now. There's been a lot of movies I've been able to watch via streaming, so I'm fortunate to be able to do that. If you want to follow the show on social media, so obviously if you're watching this video now or if you watch it later, let's start with Twitter. Hey, Twitter, everybody. Right here on Twitter, the handle is @BendYourEarPod. And over here on Facebook, hi, Facebook. Hello. The page is Let Me Bend Your Ear. So you can follow and watch the live videos on Facebook or on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram. That handle is also Let Me Bend Your, or excuse me, not Let Me Bend Your Ear. I did that last week. @BendYourEarPod. So that's the handle on both Twitter and Facebook, @BendYourEarPod. So please follow on both platforms if you use them. And I would ask, and I'll ask again at the end of the show as well. Like I said, this is a small independent podcast. So if you can share either these live videos or if you listen on the audio podcast feed later, if you see any postings from my social media accounts, either on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, please share, repost them. That's a big help, and that just helps people find this podcast. If you listen to the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, please do me the favor, if you can, rate and review. If you like it a lot, please give it a 5-star review. The more ratings and reviews that appear on some place like Apple Podcasts or any other podcast app that you listen to, that raises the level of the podcast. So if people are searching for something new, the more ratings and reviews you provide this podcast, the higher up it'll appear in searches. So that'll be another avenue to grow this. So as I've stated the last couple of weeks, I've been integrating the video element into this because I want to get more feedback, more interaction, and try to grow the show. And I know some people like to watch these things in a video format. So I'm becoming more comfortable with it. Like I said, it's a lo-fi, low-tech podcast. So I'm trying to concentrate on the content and hope you find the content compelling. So please do that. The show is available if you prefer the audio feed. If you listen to this later, which it'll be there, of course. This will be the next episode of the podcast. It'll be on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, and Amazon. So if you have obviously Alexa, a smart device at home, if you ask Alexa to play the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast, it'll start playing the podcast there, so you can listen to it in your home. Or like I said, if you prefer to get it on your phone, if you subscribe on any of those podcasting formats, and of course, obviously, when new episodes are uploaded, you'll get a notification directly to your phone or device. The show is also, of course, available on Facebook, which I am live now. Let Me Bend Your Ear, so you can like the page there. And also on YouTube. There's a YouTube channel as well. I don't broadcast live from there, but this video will be uploaded to that platform as well. So if you use YouTube, that's Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. So if you could subscribe and like I said, even if you're not a regular listener to the podcast, either on Facebook or YouTube, if you don't mind, if you just click subscribe, and like the page. That'll just help get my numbers up, and that's something that'll help as well. Like I said, the great thing about YouTube and Facebook is on Facebook, you'll get a notification if I go live. I do about one live video a week, so you won't get inundated with notifications. And specifically on YouTube, I don't go live there, so you shouldn't really get notifications at all unless you turn them on for when new videos are posted. And like I said, it's not very intrusive. So if you could do that, that would actually help me a lot. And like I said, recommend it, send it to a friend, repost it on your social media. That's a huge help to get the podcast going. If you want to email the show, you can email at bendyourearpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's bendyourearpodcast@gmail.com. So any comments, any suggestions, if you agree or disagree with the reviews, I'd love to hear the feedback. And like I said, I'll definitely respond. And my main source of interaction is going to be Twitter. I'm on Twitter every day, looking at posts either on my feed or other people's feeds. So if you have an opinion on an episode, if you want to talk about movies, like I said, it doesn't have to be about the podcast. I love, one of my favorite things is seeing people tweet about movies that they're passionate about, whether it's movies that I already know are great or even better, movies that I haven't either heard of, or something that may sound familiar or something that may sound new that I can check out and maybe review. So I love that interaction. So please just at me, Bend Your Ear Pod. I'll respond. I love to talk to people about movies. It's a fantastic forum to do that, and also link up with other independent podcasters as well. So again, feel free to do that as well. All right, let me get into the first movie today. Is going to be the movie Sound of Metal. So this is a Academy Award nominated film for this year. This is starring Riz Ahmed. If you're familiar with his work, I know him mainly from the Showtime series The Night Of, which he was fantastic in. He also had a small role in Rogue One, the Star Wars film. So very good actor. He's very good in The Night Of. And he's Oscar nominated for this film as well. So Sound of Metal has Riz playing a drummer in a two-part heavy metal band. So it's he's the drummer, and then you have the lead singer, guitarist, who happens to also be his girlfriend. As the movie opens, they're playing a concert, just normal. This is kind of, this is not a famous band. This is a band with probably a underground following. They both live in an RV. They go from city to city selling their merchandise, playing shows at little rinky-dink places. So it's not a, well-known, super famous band. This is like what most people do when they're musicians. So as the movie opens, you kind of see them as a couple, them as a band, and then very early into the movie, he starts to realize that there's something wrong with his hearing. And one of the things that this movie does fantastically well, and I've seen it and I've read other reviews about it now that I've actually seen the movie, the sound engineering in this movie is phenomenal. So when he starts to lose his hearing, it's done in a way where the audience is pulled into what his sensation is. Like one of the things I really loved is an early scene when he first starts to lose his hearing. And I know we've all gone through this. If you've ever been on an airplane or have ever had a change in pressure that affects your eardrums, where you start to do all those things, like it sounds like you're clogged, like congested. So of course that affects your hearing. And then he starts to do the things that we all do, like try to do your nose, like do this with your jaw to see if you can snap it. Like he's doing all those things that we would normally do, that I've done when something's impacting your hearing in some way, whether it's, like I said, on a plane or you have a cold. I've been battling a cold myself, so I kind of know how that goes, where it kind of can affect your hearing because your whole head is congested. So he kind of goes through all those motions and then realizes obviously that it's something worse than that. He can start to barely hear people, and eventually he ends up going to a doctor right away. And, the doctor informs him that he's got 24% hearing in one ear and 28% hearing in the other ear. So of course, his immediate response is, which I think a lot of people would do, is, hey, okay, well, no big deal. How do we fix it? What can we do? Is there a surgery or something that I need to get? So of course he's informed that there's a cochlear implant surgery that can run anywhere from $40,000 to $80,000. But the doctor tries to tell him, look, you need to understand that, this may be permanent, and the surgery may or may not work, and kind of is more realistic with him, but he doesn't want to hear any of that. So obviously he informs his girlfriend, who didn't really know. He kind of kept it to himself. They're playing a show. He's literally playing a show where he can barely hear anything, and he's kind of watching her cues to play his part to the song. And then, of course, when she finds out what's going on, she's understandably upset and says he needs to get something done about it. So the ensuing scenes that happen is basically she forces him to go to a place where they can help him, but it's a little bit unique. His character is a recovering heroin addict. His girlfriend implies that she cuts herself and had some issues as well. And one of the things about the characterization in the film that I liked is his life seems to be he has a very methodical way that he does things now. So they showed it. There's a great montage. He gets up, makes her breakfast, gets the sound equipment ready. They drive to the city, they play, and it's a routine. And as the film progresses, you start to see that routine is really rooted in kind of him trying to stave off the chaos of drug addiction. And he's been clean 4 years at the time the movie's out, so he's been clean for quite a bit of time. But obviously, his life is kind of chaotic in that way, and obviously the lifestyle of a musician on the road, especially one that's not famous and making a lot of money, is very chaotic. Even a big time musician, you can fall into drugs and all the things that happen to the pitfalls of being a rock and roll star. But imagine being someone that's not famous at all, without money, and kind of having those same pitfalls. Playing different city every night. Kind of not having that stable environment in the sense, a home to go to. You're basically living in your house and traveling around the country, which obviously he loves it. And you can see that his character clings to that, to his girlfriend and to the music. That's what's keeping him from relapsing. So he ends up going to, based on some help that his fiance's father gets, or his fiance, his girlfriend's father gets. So he ends up going to this place where they treat people that are deaf. Not treat is the wrong word. It's a place where people learn how to handle their deafness. And the thing that's unique about this particular place is that these people are also addicts as well. So it's kind of a unique place for him uniquely. So he gets there. So when he first gets there, it kind of opens up as a almost like an AA meeting or an NA meeting. The people are signing and talking about, I'm an addict, and, this is how long I've been clean. And it's basically a place there. And of course, he kind of fights back against it, because the director of the clinic, and I'm going to pull his name up. I'm going on right now, so bear with me a second, because I want to get his name as well, because he was actually, I believe, nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Paul Racy, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He plays Joe. So Joe in the movie, he is a Vietnam veteran who lost his hearing in the Vietnam War due to an explosive, and he's an alcoholic, and he runs this clinic, and he tries to let him know. He tries to let Ruben know. Ruben's the character's name. That this place is a place not to cure deafness. That deafness is not a handicap. That deaf is just who you are. And he's trying to teach both to keep these people clean and to have them, live their life, learn sign language, and go out in society just like everybody else. That deafness is something that's not to be ashamed of or considered a handicap or something that you have to navigate around. You just live your life, and there's ways to do it, and there's mechanisms to make that happen, just like anybody else. So of course, Ruben, his focus is to get his hearing better and to start to play again, because that's what his life is. And that's the best part of Sound of Metal, because that kind of push and pull between Paul and Ruben. Paul trying to communicate to Ruben that what he's trying to do may give him happiness, but it may not. The fact of the matter is, your hearing is almost gone, and it's probably not going to come back. So you need to accept that reality, move on, learn sign language, learn how to interact with people. And as he's going through the clinic, he starts to he interacts with a classroom, a deaf classroom with kids, and he becomes close to the kids there. And he has a talent for that as well. But obviously, the tug of one, his girlfriend, and two, playing the music is what he really wants to go back to because that's his passion. So again, the best things about Sound of Metal, like I said, the sound engineering in the movie is just brilliant. I mean, it's I'm sure it's going to win an Academy Award for sound design. The playing when he's hearing correctly, when his hearing deteriorates, conversations, the way things sound to him, when you get to hear that perspective, it was really just stunning, the technical achievement of it. And plus, for me as a viewer, it makes you kind of, and I think that's great when a movie does that. It makes you appreciate the thing that you take for granted every day, the fact that you can hear, and the obstacles that come into play when you are a hearing person and you don't hear. It's one thing, I think, if you're born deaf and that's all you've known and you've navigated around that. In a situation now when you have been hearing your whole life and then are deaf, become deaf, it's quite obviously a shock to the system, and obviously shakes your whole world. And Riz Ahmed does a great job portraying that conflict and kind of refusing to understand that he is going to be deaf. I think kind of living in denial that that's really what the end game is going to be. And like I said, that's the best thing about the movie. And like I said, Paul Raci's performance is worthy of the Oscar nomination that he got for Best Supporting Actor. Very good actor. I looked him up to see if I had seen him before. He didn't look familiar to me, but I think he was. And as I pulled up him, I think he's in. I forgot a show that I watched. I don't think it was Ozark or something else where I'm like, oh, he must have played a smaller character. Right? I think it was Ozark, but he's fantastic in this movie as well. As far as my thoughts about the movie overall, so my thoughts about Sound of Metal is, and I know it's gotten universal critical acclaim. I think as I watched it, I think with a lot of these movies that are nominated for Academy Awards, and I'm not talking about just this year specifically, and I haven't seen all of them. I've seen One Night in Miami, I've seen Soul, I've seen Sound of Metal, and obviously I've seen Borat. And what a lot of these movies have in common for me is the performances in the movie outshine the actual movie itself. So in this case, I find this in the case of Sound of Metal. I recommend the movie, and I'll give you my Van Gogh review shortly. But the reason to see this movie is Riz Ahmed's performance and Paul Raci's performance. Fantastic. It's worth it for those performances. So don't get me wrong, I'm recommending the movie, and then the sound design. That's the third thing. The sound design, Riz Ahmed's performance, Paul Raci's performances are the reasons to see this movie. They're fantastic. He's a fantastic actor. He deserves the Oscar nomination for this film, and he is the reason to see this movie. Now, as a movie-going experience for me, I don't know. There were some shortcomings in it for me a little bit. The movie kind of dragged a little bit for me, not a lot. I found myself not as fully engaged as I thought I would be. Fully engaged in his performance and Riz's performance, and Paul Raci's performance, enjoying that interaction, enjoying the character's journey. But it just didn't. I don't know. There's something that was missing for me, and I can't even articulate what it was. Because, like I said, the movie is good. The movie's a good movie. It just didn't rise to the level of great to me. Like I enjoyed One Night in Miami, where it was just I loved every minute of that movie, and if you can go back and listen to my review of that one. But so as a film itself, I liked the movie a lot. I don't know if I loved it. Liked it a lot. It's worth seeing. The performances are worth checking out. So based on that review, I'm going to go ahead and give Sound of Metal 3.5 Van Goghs out of 5. So like I said, for me, and I've never really let me jump into that real quick. I'm going to do a sidebar. I've never thought of what, sometimes critics will put what their reviews mean as far as movies. So for me, and I just actually came to this realization this week. So I go 1 to 5 Van Goghs. So ears, let me bend your ear, 5 Van Goghs for me is a movie in my all-time greats. So there's very few movies I'm going to give 5. So I spoke in the last episode about my top 5 movies of all time. I'll throw one out there. Goodfellas is one of my top 5. That'll be a 5 Van Gogh movie. That's a movie that I've seen over and over and over. So any movie that I give 5 Van Goghs to, it's going to be a movie that will it maybe be considered one of the best movies ever or one of the best movies of the year that I'm reviewing it that it comes out. Maybe or maybe not. But a 5 Van Gogh for review for me is means I'm going to watch that movie over and over and over again because I love it so much. A 4 Van Gogh review means it's not in my all-time greats movies, but that is also a movie that I would watch over and over. A movie that I would repeat view. So that's 4 Van Goghs. 3 Van Goghs to me is going to be a decent movie, good movie. Would I watch it over and over again? No. But watching it once, it wasn't a waste of my time. 3 to 3.5, just like the review I just gave Sound of Metal right now. That's something that, would I ever see it again? I don't know if I've ever watched the movie again. That doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It just means that I enjoyed it, but it wasn't something that I'm going to go back to over and over again. So that'd be a 3.5 Van Gogh review. 2 Van Goghs is, okay, that's not a very good movie. Now, 2 means that there's something in the movie that kept me from giving it a 1. So I'll give you a perfect example. Failure to Launch, which I reviewed on Rom-Com Corner way back. If you go back in the feed, that's the movie with Matthew McConaughey and Sarah Jessica Parker, romantic comedy. God awful. It's god awful. And I'm talking about people that I know that like romantic comedies tell me it's god awful. So you know it's bad. When rom-com fans go, yeah, that's bad. That's a bad rom-com. So what kept me from giving that movie 1 Van Gogh, I think I gave it 2 if I remember right, was Kathy Bates was in it. Kathy Bates never does anything bad. I don't care if the movie's bad. She's never bad. Seeing Kathy Bates in the 2 or 3 scenes that she was in with Terry Bradshaw, of all people playing her husband, kept me from giving that a 1 Van Gogh review. I haven't given anything a 0 yet. So when I get to 0, I don't know what that's going to mean if I ever do it. I may only just start at 1. I mean, it has to be horrific. So we'll see if that ever happens, then I'll revise it. But a 2 Van Gogh review means something in the movie it's a bad movie, but something kept me from giving it a 1. Now, if I give it a 1, then you know what that means. That means that it's terrible. There's nothing about it to like. The acting was terrible. The direction was terrible. The screenplay was terrible. It's just trash. So that's going to be a 1 Van Gogh. So that's my rating system there. Just a little side note. So anyway, back to Sound of Metal. 3.5 Van Goghs out of 5. Like I said, it's on Amazon Prime right now, so you can watch it if you have Amazon. Definitely check it out for Riz Ahmed's performance and Paul Raci's performances. Those performances in the movie are worth seeing it. The sound design, which will win an Academy Award. If not, that's ridiculous. The sound design in the movie is top notch, fantastic, and adds so much to the movie and putting the audience member in Ruben's experience, what it's like to navigate around losing his hearing. So it's the sound design's phenomenal. So that's my review of Sound of Metal. All right, the next movie I'm going to review is a film called Nobody. It's playing in theaters now, also on demand, so you can get it wherever you get VOD. You can rent it. It's not available for sale yet or streaming, but you can rent it and watch it. So I watched it last night. So Nobody has the main reason I checked it out was 2 reasons. Well, the main reason is Bob Odenkirk. So if you are a fan of Breaking Bad and or Better Call Saul, which are 2 of my favorite shows, and Better Call Saul is about to go into its last season. It is one of the best dramas on television. So, and in my opinion, and Bob Odenkirk is phenomenal as Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad, and then now as Jimmy McGill going into Saul in the Better Call Saul prequel series. So, I'm a big fan of his work. So, about a month ago, I hear he's got a film coming out called Nobody. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I start to find out and read that it's an action movie. And I'm like, action movie? Bob Odenkirk? Action star? I'm like, okay. So I'm reading more about it. It's starting to get positive reviews. And then it turns out the screenwriter of the John Wick series, now I know, and you can shoot me for not being a good movie Twitter guy, because I have not seen any of the John Wick movies. And I just haven't gotten around to seeing them. And I know a lot of people are hardcore fans of them. And obviously it's made gobs of money because they're about to make, 5, I think, 4 or 5. I don't even know. It's becoming like Fast and the Furious. But again, Keanu Reeves finds a franchise and just makes his career continue to thrive. And, for 40 years almost now, it's incredible. But the writer of John Wick wrote the screenplay for Nobody. So he wanted to write a screenplay with a protagonist that wasn't your typical action star. So not something that you would put The Rock or, back in the day, Bruce Willis or Vin Diesel or Keanu Reeves or anything that you would think as an action star. He wanted to write an action movie where the protagonist was just a regular dude, just any everyday guy. So this was written with Bob Odenkirk in mind to play the role. So he took it on and embraced it, and it's before I get into the review. So the movie is 92 minutes long. So that's my first positive about this movie. And I don't know how long the John Wick movies are, but I think this screenwriter is smart. It's a simple premise. It's not complicated. You get in, story, gets to the action, gets to the end, movie's over, you had a good time. And I'm going to get more in depth into a minute, but it's not bloated. It's not over. And especially when I get to describe about the movie, it didn't need to be longer than 92 minutes. And that was a great decision. So we'll start there. So the director is a Russian director. I haven't heard him before, Ilya, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to butcher it. But it's got Bob Odenkirk in it. Connie Nielsen plays his wife. Christopher Lloyd, yes, that Christopher Lloyd, Doc Brown, Back to the Future, plays his dad. And RZA from Wu-Tang Clan is in it as well. So as the movie opens, and this is one of the great visual things, this director has a lot of good visual tricks. So the movie opens with a montage, basically in a week of the life of this guy, of this main character. And it shows him going to work, clocking in. Or actually, let me back up. It shows him getting out of bed, getting his coffee, going to work, coming home, on the bus each way. Same thing for a whole week. Every Tuesday when it's garbage day, he misses the garbage man. So you could just see it's a great montage in about a minute about how boring, uneventful, plain this guy's life is. So give me a second. I'm going to look up the character's name. But that's a great start to the movie. So early in the movie, and his character's name is, here we go, Hutch Mansell. So early in the movie, after we find out about his boring life, Hutch is at home at night and there's a break-in. So Hutch goes downstairs, grabs a golf club. He's sneaking around downstairs and he sees the two people breaking in. So he's watching them quietly, and they're at the base of the stairs, and as they're there, you see a figure jump onto one of the robbers. And it turns out that that's his son. So his son takes, there's a male and a female. So the son takes the male, has got him on the ground. They're tussling. He's got him in a head. The son's got him in a headlock. Hutch has the drop on the woman, and he's got the golf club. So he starts to go like he's going to hit her, and then he pulls back. And he tells his son to let the other guy go. Let him go. And his son's like, what are you saying? He's like, let him go. So his son lets him go. And the burglar punches the son in the face. And they end up leaving. So that kind of sets in motion. So basically the cops come, and you can see his family is just disappointed that he didn't step up. The son more blatantly so. The wife more subtly. But the son basically is like, dude, what the hell, man? What's your problem? We had him. And of course he's like, look, I didn't want anybody to get hurt, and that's why I did what I did. So police come, write a report, they go away. The next morning, son is pissed off. They're getting ready to go to work, everything, like it is. And everything is normal until a trigger happens. It turns out that they took some cash, but they also took his daughter's kitty cat bracelet. So she had a little kitty cat bracelet that was in the same bowl as the cash. So this triggers Hutch that his daughter lost something, and it sets in motion the rest of the movie. So basically, he goes out, gets his gun. He has a gun that nobody knows about, goes out to track down the robbers because the female robber had a tattoo that he noticed on her wrist, and goes around to try to find it and to trace it back to her. So as this unfolds, we start to see that Hutch is not your normal, everyday, boring accountant. He has, in the words of Liam Neeson Taken style, a particular set of skills. And in a nutshell, he has the skills to kick a lot of ass. So I'm not going to give too much away. I will say there is a fantastic action sequence on a bus. That's phenomenal, and that's all I'm gonna say. So as the movie progresses, his search for the daughter's kitty cat bracelet and retribution for them coming into his house involves a Russian crime lord. And the main plot there is he's responsible for what's called the Grob Shack. I think it's what it's called. So basically, it's a 401k for gangsters. So basically, it's a huge amount of cash that has to be moved around all the time to be kept safe. And this gangster is the I guess you would say the bank manager of this particular roving bank. So he runs afoul. Hutch runs afoul of this guy through some actions that happen in the movie. I don't want to give too much away, but and then Christopher Lloyd is in a nursing home who's Hutch's dad, and you find out a little bit about him as well as the movie progresses, and it kind of ties things in the third act. So, like I said, the movie is 92 minutes long. It's very violent. So if you're squeamish about violence, just take that into note. I mean, if you watch John Wick, you'll probably love this. Bob Odenkirk as a action star is credible. So the direction, the way it's shot, the way it's edited, especially like I said, the sequence on the bus is unbelievable. So you buy him as an action star. You buy him as a badass. It's I kind of equated to the Matt Damon Jason Bourne movie. So when you first see the Bourne Identity, it's at that point in Jason Bourne and in Matt Damon's career, he hadn't really played a role like that. So to see him in there was great. And like I said, I'm a fan of those movies, but this movie was great. You get the smart ass Bob Odenkirk, so you get the funny, and then you get the dramatic. Like I said, there's some great action sequences in there. Like I said, the movie is extremely violent, but it's fun. As I've said in the last couple of podcasts, and when I've talked about like Kong versus Godzilla and Tom and Jerry and these movies that have come out, and I know the Academy Awards are coming out now, and of course all those movies are super serious, like Nomadland and things like that, and even Sound of Metal, which I just reviewed One Night in Miami. I think with the pandemic and everything that's gone on, and with the fragile state of seeing movies in theaters, I think we're going to see an embrace of these popcorn fun movies, and you know what? That's fantastic. And like I've said before, Marvel movies and comic book movies kind of monopolized the multiplexes even pre-pandemic. And I'm a fan of them if they're well done, but we're missing and I've said it before, the kind of R-rated movies for adults. And I was talking more about the drama aspect of it, but something like Nobody. So is a 18-year-old or 16-year-old or 21-year-old going to go see Nobody in the movies? They might, because if they know it's action, but they may not, because they see Bob Odenkirk, who's an older guy, and they may be turned away from it. But the thing that I love about it is it's doing well in theaters. Like I said, I saw it on video on demand. I couldn't go out to the theater. I'm in Florida, so theaters are open, but I've got kids, and it's hard to set time aside to leave to go see a movie when I can just easily do it. Like in this case with Nobody, after the kids went to bed, put it on, and was able to watch it, which is the kind of the benefit out of this bad situation. For me, it allows me to be able to watch movies that I normally wouldn't be able to watch, at least not right away. And since it's been open for a couple of weeks in the theater, I still wanted to review it. Like I said, it's fantastic. There's a great use of music throughout the movie. There's great songs in there, some known, some not so well known, that are great in the movie. The actor that plays the Russian gangster is funny and scary and kind of good. It's over the top in a good way, just an over the top action movie, and it's fun. I'll give the director credit. There's a great tracking shot in there, so it kind of reminds me, and I spoke about Goodfellas a couple of minutes ago. If you know the Copa scene in Goodfellas, that's the famous scene when Henry Hill is taking Karen out on the first date, and they go into the Copa and they go in the back door, and there's a one long continuous tracking shot following them from the street through the kitchen to where they're seated in the Copa. There's a scene when they introduce the Russian gangster in Nobody. Same thing. He's coming out of a truck. It's a tracking shot inside. He goes to the club that he owns, and it follows him through the club. But he doesn't end up sitting down. The thing that's funny about him, there's someone on stage. I don't know if they're doing karaoke or singing, but they're singing a song. So the gangster goes up on stage and basically starts dancing around and singing with the lady until the song's over. And the scene directly after that is funny, because then There's people that are talking to him and questioning him about, things that are going on, thinking that he's kind of soft because he's up there singing with a girl. So then he quickly lets them know how serious he is by doing something I won't say, and quickly changes their doubts about him. So that's a great scene. Like I said, opens with a tracking shot. Very good. Like I said, I've never seen this director before, Ilya. And like I said, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but director from Russia, a younger guy. I think he's in his 30s. So he made me one to look at. So again, Nobody was a lot of fun. If you like Odenkirk, you're gonna be surprised at him being an action star. But he's great. Christopher Lloyd is fantastic. You don't see Christopher Lloyd that much. At least I haven't in a long time. And he's great in this movie. Riz is good. Good cast. Connie Nielsen is his wife is good as well. So Nobody, a lot of fun. It's a great. If you get a chance to go see it in the movies, I think it's a good one to see in the movies. Big screen, loud noises, great sound system. So if you could check it out in the movies, do it. But if not, get it on VOD. It was very, very enjoyable. So I'm going to give Nobody 4 Van Goghs out of 5. Strong 4. It was an entertaining movie. And like I said, 4 means that I would see it again. Is it in my echelon of the greatest movies of all time? No. But what I will say is what it does well. It delivers kick-ass action, some funny lines, great performance by Odenkirk, some great cinematography, great music used throughout the film. A lot, it was just great. So if you like a good action shoot 'em up movie, you don't have to put too much thought into it. It's fantastic, and I think you'll enjoy it. I think it was a lot of fun. So I will give Nobody 4 Van Goghs out of 5. So again, to recap, Sound of Metal with Riz Ahmed, 3.5 Van Goghs out of 5. Again, check that movie out for the performances. That's the main reason to really look at it. I think you will enjoy it. It's a good movie. Like I said, I don't know if it's a great movie, but it's a good movie, solid movie, great performances in it. So I would recommend it. I give it a recommendation. And Nobody with Bob Odenkirk, like I said, I give 4 Van Goghs out of 5. If you're a fan of violent action movies, you'll be a fan of this. Like I said, I'm sure if you like the John Wick movies, you'll like this movie as well. Like I said, it's very entertaining and it was fun. It's fun to watch. And like I said, it's great to have movies that are just fun, that you can enjoy and not really think about something for an hour and a half. And like I said, that's the biggest thing. It's 92 minutes. It goes by fast. There's nothing added to make it longer or to slow it down. So it just moves, and then it's done. All right, so I hope you enjoyed those 2 reviews. Again, if you have any comments on this review, if you're watching live, leave comments. I'll read them later. I definitely don't want to read them while I'm live because I don't multitask well. I want to stay focused on talking about the movies that I'm reviewing. So please leave a comment if you see this video later. If you agree with my reviews, if you haven't seen the movie, if you have seen the movie. Like I said, Twitter first, at BendYourEarPod, so you can watch this video there later. Leave any comments, share it, retweet it. I would appreciate it. And over here on Facebook, Let Me Bend Your Ear. Just share the video if you like it or comment on what I reviewed. And if you listen to the audio podcast later, like I said, hit me up on social media. Like I said, I'm on at BendYourEarPod for Twitter, at BendYourEarPod for Instagram. And we have the YouTube channel, Let Me Bend Your Ear Podcast, and of course, Facebook as well. So please like and subscribe to both of those pages. I'd appreciate it. And again, if you listen to the audio feed later, thank you very much as well. I appreciate everybody that listens, and thank you for that. And thank you for downloading the podcast. Again, the podcast is available on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, and Amazon Music. So you can get them on all those. There's other podcasting feeds, like if you do a search on Google and type in Let Me Bend Your Ear Podcast, there's a bunch of other ones that this podcast shows up on. So I think a lot of these podcasters just grab all the feeds. So I don't really post those because I'm not officially on there. So I don't want to say it's on a particular platform, and it's not. But if you type in Let Me Bend Your Ear Podcast, even if you type it in Google, it'll actually pull up episodes right there. You probably don't have to go to a secondary search. But like I said, if you really want to listen to it regularly, the best way to do it is to just subscribe to it on your whatever podcasting app you use, or on Facebook or YouTube if you prefer the video element. And if you want to go to the website, the show has a website. It's www.letmebendYourEar.com. So I don't know what I'm going to do there. I've been trying to look for ways to grow the podcast and to monetize it on a small level, to cover just small. Like I said, I don't have a lot of overhead. It's a low tech podcast, so that's the good part. Got to maintain the website is the biggest cost that I have. So I would like to try to recoup that if I can. So if you have any suggestions on that, I have a website built up, so I don't know if maybe merchandise or access to different shows or do something different. I was thinking about doing Patreon, but I don't think I don't have enough of a following to do a Patreon where I think people want to pay every month. And then I'd rather do something where it could be more a la carte, where if you want something or something specific, or if I sell even merchandise like a sticker or a magnet or something like that. The main reason I need to, not need to, the main reason I would like to raise funds is to just cover the small overhead that I have, and then eventually improve the hardware that I use. So obviously here, and as I stated last week, last show, I'm on Twitter here on my cell phone and on Facebook on my laptop. The laptop I use is a Chromebook, so it's not very conducive. The hardware is not very strong for multi streaming at the same time and stuff like that. So eventually I'm going to upgrade my hardware, so get a better laptop, and get a better laptop and kind of be able to eventually do live interviews, or even interviews that I record video and audios instead of just audio. So that's a long-term goal. But it's something I want to work towards, because obviously I want to find ways to grow the show. I do this show because I enjoy it, and it's something that I love to do. I look forward to it. And as I've stated previously, like the video element that I'm trying to navigate through now is kind of keeping that excitement up. It's great. Like I said, the audio feed is always going to be my driving force. So I'm happy to do that, but I'm using the video element to try to grow the show and reach more people and try to interact with people that may be regular listeners. So if you are, like I said, please feel free to comment here or on Facebook. And like I said, I'm trying to find a way, like I said, if I figure out a way to monetize it, I think it's going to be more on a putting stuff on the website, which would be the easiest thing. If you want to, if you have suggestions about that, if you'd buy a t-shirt, or if you'd buy a mug, or if you'd buy a magnet of something you would be interested in, if you were a fan of the podcast, let me know. I'm taking in all suggestions, like I said, because I think I'll just put a small shop on the website. Because like I said, I think I'm not ready to do a Patreon, to commit to that, because I wouldn't want people to do Patreon and me not provide the content that they are paying for. I'd rather do, like I said, things a la carte, whether it's a special episode that people want me to record on, on a one-off for a fee, or like I said, merchandise with the show's name on it. So let me know. Give me suggestions. I'd appreciate it. But again, I am at BenJerEarPod at Instagram and Twitter. And you can email the show at benjerearpodcast@gmail.com. So again, let me know your thoughts on both Sound of Metal and Nobody. If you agree with me, disagree with me, I'll be happy to hear your thoughts. And I hope everybody has a fantastic week. And as we go through the challenges in this world, just stay strong out there. And I think I'm gonna wrap every show like I did last week. Do something that you enjoy. This podcast is what I enjoy doing. So whether I have one listener or 1,000 or 0, it's a good outlet for me to express myself, and I appreciate anyone that listens. So whatever it is you do or not doing that you enjoy, whatever hobby or something that you're passionate about, engage in it. It's good for your soul. So definitely do that. So that'd be my advice, my unsolicited advice. I'll just keep giving it. If somebody listens to it, I think it's great. But I definitely enjoy it. So again, hope everybody has a great week. I will see you here next week. Like as I've stated as my goal, I'm going to try to be recording podcasts every single week. I haven't done a great job of that, but obviously if I want to build an audience, I need to have content out on a regular basis. So like I said, hopefully I'll see you here at the same time next week, either here live or on the audio podcast feed. So again, everybody have a fantastic week.